Hello all you mayhem makers, Mindy with Quilting Mayhem, and today I want to do just a quick tutorial on how to trim strata into blocks. So, I mean, we get this a lot. You've sewn all your strips together and, hopefully they're pretty straight. Cutting for strips, that's a whole nother tutorial on making sure they're nice and straight and you've got them sewn together and pressed. And now how do you cut them, right? Because they can get wonky real quickly. So I'm going to move you guys here. Just ignore all the messes. My poor sewing room. All right, so you have nice straight strips. When you go and cut your squares out of them, don't just cut your squares, okay? You need to be paying attention to how everything lines up because things do get, offset as you go. And if you want your strips to stay nice and straight, you're going to be mindful of how you do that. So I always start with, cutting off, oops, here, we'll get you in the camera here. Cleaning off this edge. So I will take as many lines on my ruler as I can to line up with the strips I've sewn. Hopefully they all line up. Some may be a little off, but hopefully not by much. It may be that you need to go back and repress if you have not pressed it enough. That's always a good indicator of why it doesn't stay nice and straight in your strips. But I will line up as many of these lines on my ruler that I can to try to make sure that I'm getting a nice straight block. I'm going to trim it off, all right? And then you just flip your strata around and start cutting. Now, keep in mind, I generally do not cut more than 2 or 3 blocks at a time before I clean up that edge again. Because what happens is the strip sets, they have natural bends and curves in them. It's just how life goes. And so you want to make sure you're adjusting for that. So I can even tell, like I cut my square and my square looks, it looks good and straight, but it already has started to come out a little ways. It's just how this fabric goes with being in these strips. So what I'm doing is lining up as many lines as I can in my ruler again. Say hi to Jasper. And I'm doing 5-inch squares. So I'm lining up with the 5 on the bottom, the 5, these lines through the middle. But I'm noticing like the 5 over here on this ruler, if I can get you close enough, maybe you might be able to see, it's poking out, all right? We don't really like that. That means it's wonky on this side. But what I'm going to do, because I know these lines are straight, I gotta move you back again. So much moving. Hopefully I'm not making you nauseous here. Is I'm going to cut this side because I know this is straight. These are pretty much all 90 degrees. Rotate that block back around, line it up, and trim that little bit of wonky extra. So as you're cutting strata, you may be trimming both sides every time, depending how your strip set is. I gotta figure out how this showing up in my camera. There we go. Okay, so because of how I've cut my strips, and I probably wasn't super careful with cutting this time around, it was late at night when I was doing this, it has that natural want to bend and curve. So just every time I'm going over more than 5 inches from the edge. So it's not like a normal strip of fabric where I would just line it up because I know that this would be a clean 90 degrees. It's just not. It is not a clean 90 degrees. So I'm actually cutting 5 1/4-ish. But I know that this now is a true 90 degrees between the strips and the ruler edge, and then I'm turning it around and cleaning off that little bit. It's a little bit sometimes each time. Sometimes I can get several cuts in before I have to do this. A lot of it will depend how many strips are in the strip set. Because a lot of times, like if it's only 2 fabrics in that strip set, it doesn't get near as wonky. When you start doing as many as these, especially the small cuts, you have more fabrics that are just trying to take over in that, keeping it straight. So that's my best tip of trying to help you keep your strata blocks, your strip sets nice and square. All right, so hopefully this helps you when you're doing those kinds of blocks. So have a lovely day. Keep on stitching.